Hi guys, welcome to today's show with E-Man Productions. Today we're going to be doing sticks of dynamite, like you might see in a Looney Tunes cartoon. Okay guys, so what you're going to need first and foremost, the most important thing, is a broom handle or a brush handle that you can get at your local hardware store. Next we're going to need some sandpaper so that we can smooth off the brush to make sure that the paint takes to it. And we'll talk about the types of paint you can use in a minute. Okay, after that we're going to need a measuring tape. Obviously, as I said, we're going to do 20 centimeter pieces, and without a measuring tape it's anybody's guess from there. So make sure you have a decent measuring tape. And for cutting the broom handle, a saw, preferably not as rusty as this saw, but still a saw all the same. That'll do the job. And one thing I almost forgot, which every good stick of dynamite needs, is a fuse. Now for our fuse we're going to use a bit of wire that we no longer need, so we'll just trim that off at whatever length and use that. You can also use string, shoelace, preferably something that will sit up and is flexible. And last but very definitely not least, a tin of red paint. Now I happen to have this paint from painting my front door red, so I wouldn't expect you to go out and buy such a huge tin of paint to make a few sticks of dynamite. So you can use acrylic, you can use a small sample tin of paint, and the red is entirely up to you. So adding to the fuse, I actually found that on the end of the broom, which might prove handy for a little fuse. And now we have to just sand this back because the wood's quite shiny, so I'm not too sure that the paint will take to it without scratching off easily. And whoop. So yeah, so basically we just need to roughen up the wood. As I say, you don't need to sand back too much, just enough that you can feel the wood underneath and the shine will come off it. So the paint, which we're using enamel water-based paint, and when you use that on varnish of any kind, it doesn't set at all, it just scrapes off. So we need to roughen this up. And pretty much it. Okay, so now we're going to measure our piece, and I reckon, now this can be as long or as short as you want, so I'm going to go with 20 centimeters. Okay, and 40 there, and 60 there.
Isn't that 20 centimeters? Yeah?
No, it's inches.
Continue.
And 80 there, and so on through the brim. Okay, so normally I would use clamps, but because this is so thin, it's not allowing me to clamp it to the table properly. So clamps are out for this one. We'll just have to hold on tight. Me being left-handed, I'll have to be over this side. So we're going to cut our first piece, and always have an adult with you if you're using the saw. You don't want to lose this. Okay, so when you're sawing, make sure your thumb is not near the saw, because sometimes it can jump and you want to give yourself time to move your thumb. When you start sawing the wood, make sure you go nice and slow to begin with so that you can get a cut. And then as it takes, and we're able to chew through. So here you have your first stick of dynamite. All we need to do now is just repeat that process, cut along. So you might be making singular sticks of dynamite. You might be making a whole bunch of them where you tape them together, which we'll look at in a minute. So I'll cut the rest of them and I will be back with you in a moment. Okay guys, so we've now got our 4 sticks of dynamite. For this we're going to do a bunch of 3 and 1 single one. Okay, so you've cut your pieces. Now you'll notice there's a few rough edges, so what you want to do is just tidy up around the edges, make it nice and smooth so you don't get any splinters, and basically just do that process both top and bottom of I blinded myself with a splinter. So just finish that process nice and tidy. And they're all good to go. So what we're going to do next is we're going to put a thin drill hole through the top, and that will serve two purposes, which I'll show you in a moment. Hi guys, one thing I didn't mention at the beginning because the idea just came to me there now, we're going to need a small plank of wood or a board or something that's broad enough to hold 4 of these bad boys, and I'll show you exactly what we're going to do. So this already has 4 holes in it because I had been using it for something else. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 4 drill pieces, screws I should say is what they're called, through the bits of wood, and this will become clear in a moment what we're going to be doing with this. What I was originally thinking was painting half the stick of dynamite, wait until it dries, turn it over and paint the other half, but this way we'll be able to do it all in the one hit and therefore save time in the long run. So we'll get one more screw in here, and I'm sure our fantastic editor will be able to make this a lot faster than what I'm doing it. So, okay, so we now have a bit of wood with 4 screws pointing upward. Be incredibly careful. The last thing you want to do is get one of these through your hand. We'll get the thinnest drill piece that we've got. So we've got the thinnest drill piece that we've got, and we're going to put that in, and we're going to drill a hole in here. Now we would need to drill the hole anyway so that we can put the fuse in and later on glue it. So what we'll do is we will drill a hole, and I will finish the rest of those, but just to show you what I mean, we will then use the hole that we've just drilled, place it on one of the screws. Only needs to be on a few threads, just enough to hold it, and that is how we'll be able to paint the whole thing in one hit, and depending on how many coats we need, it'll at least cut the time down to half. Okay guys, so now we're going to paint the sticks of dynamite. As I said, I happened to have this when I was painting my front door. So I'm going to be using the gloss water-based enamel. Now if you do happen to have some spare paint and it's oil-based, just be aware that oil-based does take about 16 hours to dry, so it's a bit of a nuisance to work with. So water-based is the best, it's about 2 hours to dry. If however you have dry wood that'll take to the paint, just normal everyday acrylic paint that you would use for art will do just fine. It just won't handle as well if you're using it frequently. So we'll crack open the tin and we'll get started with the painting. Now I know this is going to sound a bit obvious, but the paintbrush I have is Slightly bigger than what I would want. I don't happen to have a smaller paintbrush. It'll do the job still, just the bigger the paintbrush is more awkward working on a very small space. So, but it'll do the job. So don't worry too much about your first coat, as long as you get it on there and it's smooth. Don't leave any drips or runs. And once the first coat's on and dried, the second coat will be a lot better. So let's get to it and see how this wood takes to this. Hi guys, so we're back. The paint has dried. Now, if you need to, you can always put a second coat on. That's entirely up to you. I've just realised to fit the string that we're using as a fuse.
For the single one?
The single fuse, so we're probably going to need to do a slightly bigger hole. So I'm using a number 4. It's a number 4 drill bit. And obviously if you have an adult that's accompanying you, they can find the appropriate sized drill bit. Okay, so all we need now is the hot glue, which is over here. So you want to get your string and twist it in there. Now obviously if you want a temporary thing, you can just leave it as is, but we're going to use the hot glue gun so that we can get it in permanently. And we may need to shorten our fuse. Okay, so now we've got to use the hot glue gun. And let's get a little screw here to help it in. And that is our fuse. Okay, so that's your stick of dynamite. Be careful with it. Don't destroy anything. Now, if however you want a really big explosion, you'll need a whole bunch of dynamite. So, we're going to take the 3 sticks of dynamite, the 3 extra ones that we've done, and that's where these come in. Cable ties. Okay, so for these ones, we'll probably need 2 cable ties. 1, 2. And I can never remember which one is which for these, but let's see how we go. Okay, so now you get your bunch of dynamite, and we just need to trim off the ends. Pair of pliers. Always make sure you've got an adult or you know what you're doing. These are very nasty when they cut you, and we just trim the end off there, trim the end off there, and you got yourself a genuine stick of dynamite. Wow. Okay, so just to add a little bit to the prop to give it a bit of more authenticity, we've got these little wires that we got from a spare plug. I'm sure in this day and age you'll have something lying about the house you can use. So we just pop all 3 of them in. Now I would recommend not gluing them in so that they're flexible and you can do whatever you want with them. So if you want it to be a permanent prop, then by all means glue them in. Otherwise, pop them all in, and then we bind them together, and it's back to the hot glue gun. Okay guys, so that's how you make your TNT movie props. Don't go blowing anything up too much, and I'll see you next time. Oh no.